We live?
Hi, everybody. This is Wayne Dorvan. I am not live today from Loveland, Colorado. I'm actually live from the Philadelphia area, actually in Delaware, across the river from Philadelphia, where I'm out here on a project. John Nillen is actually right there in our new headquarters area in Colorado, and we just lost Jennifer. So let's hope she'll come back. She was on with us. Jennifer Orlowski is going to be our guest today, and we have lost her signal here for a second. So in a second, I'm sure she'll come back. I see John's looking at his questions there that we had. How are you doing today, John?
I'm doing well. How's the trip going?
It's great. It's really good.
I had an interesting ride up on I-25 today. I noticed a little panic when I walked in the door here, but I got a good view of the highway for 25 minutes, dead stop in traffic, but made it safe and sound, and caused a little dirt on your road leading up here to the new office, but we made it.
All right. And it looks like Jennifer's back on. At least I see an image, and we'll see if she shows up here in just a second. But real quick, while we're waiting for Jennifer, this is our first of our webinars in our new location. We're actually now consolidated. We've got all of our activity up at the ranch. And so John's sitting in our new ranch office, and as I said, I'm in Delaware. So you can see a few videotapes there in the background that we have. Leigh-Ann is producing, and so she's behind the scenes there in the location. And John, can anybody else that's there live, can they hear us also, or are you having to use just the local speakers?
Nope, we're fine. I think who's ever here can hear us just fine, so it's coming across well.
Awesome. So we've got a small live audience there in Colorado, as we always have for our huddles. I see that Jennifer looks to me like she's come back on now. And then we also have all of you out across the internet. And interestingly, I had a whole group of people that were with me here about 15, 20 minutes ago. They all asked about this webinar, and they're going to actually be guests with us in the future. I see we actually got Mark on from Bangladesh, and he's one of our staff, one of our writers over there. Welcome, Mark. Glad that you could come on, and welcome to everybody else. Jennifer, are you hearing us? Because Leigh-Ann, all I'm seeing is sort of I'm not seeing her image. I'm just seeing a blue silhouette like you would have if maybe we were connected, but not yet very well. Jennifer, are you hearing us at all? Guess she's not hearing us quite yet. John, you came up on the interstate. You had a little traffic today. So
yeah.
I'm actually here on. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, little is an understatement. There was quite a bit, and I haven't seen that many semis lined up, being held up in both directions. But hopefully, the folks that were involved in the accident are okay. So I'm sure that they would probably give up an hour's worth of their time for those people to be okay. So.
I'm back here in the Delaware area working on an environmental project where, John, it's very much like a number of the others we've done where one company is selling a property to another company, and then a third party is going to become the new tenant, but that new party, the new tenant who really wants to use the property does not want to have any of the environmental risk. So we're helping to structure a situation where they will not have any of that risk. We're right on the Delaware River, so a little bit earlier today I got to walk out on a pier and out into the tidal area of the Delaware River.
Wayne, I just got a little notice that Jennifer joined the call, so perhaps we could check and see if she is with us live.
Jennifer, are you hearing us? I actually see a couple of different. You see that it looks
now
like
we have twins.
Yeah. Mark, are you hearing us well? Would you go back on chat and tell us whether you're hearing us over there in Bangladesh? You said hello everyone here, so sort of just waiting to see if Jennifer, we had her for a while, then we lost the signal. You look comfortable in that chair there, John.
I'm a lot more comfortable than I was 25 minutes ago, I can tell you that. Because I was flying.
So I'm going to change the view here a little bit just to give people. So tell me. See that picture on the wall?
Yep, we see it.
That is where I'm at. And the water is down at the bottom there, and those are the peepers going out into it.
I do see a, Leigh-Ann, I was just going to mention, I do see like a microphone on Jennifer there, but it has a line through it, so maybe her mic is off, possibly.
Actually, the picture of Jennifer is the one that's Leigh-Ann's computer, John.
Okay.
Jennifer's blue picture on the end. So hopefully we'll grab her here in a little bit. Mark's hearing everything great, he says. So obviously you and I are coming across okay. So while we're waiting for Jennifer, just real quick, we are in a transition, not only in getting this connection right, but also, as we mentioned, making a move. And I'm actually going to have a little video that comes out a little bit later in the week, but we've now consolidated all of our operations up at Mountain Sky Ranch. And we spent the last month, really, even while we had our last conference call, making the move. And I really want to give some thanks to a number of our staff as well as interns that helped with the move, and even specifically call out Justin Wybright, who was leading up really the moving activity. Josh Clone, our office manager, was coordinating things. Interns, and I won't remember to name all of them, but there are a few of them that stick out that really worked very hard at the move. Trent was heavily involved, and Paul and Susan. Again, I'm sure I forgot some others. Joe worked hard on the move. David Brander, who's now actually going to be working with us as one of our partners, helped with several different days of the moving. And like I said, I've probably forgotten some other names. So I appreciate that. We appreciate that a lot. So a little later in the week, we're going to put out a blog where we show some pictures and a little video of our new location. It's still a work in progress, as we're going to be modifying a number of shipping containers that we've brought out to the property to become production areas, work areas. We're building a platform on which we're going to be able to be doing a number of our different projects. So we're excited about that. I see again the picture, the blue, that looks like Jennifer is there, but I don't know whether we have any voice yet. It doesn't look like we have an audio signal at all. There, wait a minute. She just showed back up. Jennifer, do you hear us? Jennifer, we see you there. Do you hear us at all?
Hello, Jennifer.
Well, we've got her on. We've got her on camera. Jennifer, are you there? Jennifer, do you hear either one of us? Mark says that he sees her, so she's visible in Bangladesh. But I don't know that she's hearing us.
It doesn't appear so.
Are you using the Yeti mic, John? The
Yes.
big mic.
Yes.
Your audio is good. So what were you doing earlier that you were struggling with the audio?
I changed the default setting on it.
So now you're hearing me through your computer or through Leigh-Ann?
Through my computer.
Yours.
Yeah, I can hear you just perfect. And it appears we lost the signal to Jennifer.
And I think we knew yesterday, Leigh-Ann said that she just came back, that
Right.
she potentially has some connection. Hopefully we'll be able to get her on here and she'll stay here for a second.
Hi, Dr. Orlowski. I'm going to try to put you on speakerphone.
Oh, I actually, I have a suggestion, Leigh-Ann. What if you had Jennifer call in?
I've got you on speakerphone now.
Jennifer call in.
I've got Dr. Orlowski on speakerphone, so we can do it then.
Wayne, we've got Jennifer on speakerphone here. Jennifer, can we hear you?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Awesome.
I can hear you. I can hear you just fine. Wayne, let's take a look and see if you're able to hear Jennifer. Maybe say hi to Wayne, Jennifer.
Hi, Wayne.
I hear her great, so that's actually working awesome. I'm glad we went that way.
Perfect.
And Jennifer, we'd love to be able to see you because I can see from the picture from the website and as we saw you live that you're a beautiful lady. So but it'd be great if we could do this by the phone. I was just going to suggest to Leigh-Ann that we do it that way. So let's get going. Let's start over a little bit here. As everybody knows, we record this and we get a lot more of our viewers through the recording anyway. And Leigh-Ann does an amazing job of editing. So Jennifer, welcome. Thank you for being able to come on with us today. We appreciate it. And even though we had a little technical glitches here, it's going to be fun.
Well, thank you. I can't really hear Wayne that well, just so you know, John. I can hear you better.
Okay, what I will do then, Jennifer, is when Wayne is speaking, I'll put the mic up to my computer by the microphone, and then when you're speaking, I'll put it to the other mic. So hopefully that'll work out well. Perhaps we can give it a quick test. And Wayne, why don't you go ahead and say hi to Jennifer and see if she can hear you okay.
Hi, Jennifer. It's we can always figure things out. These technical issues they've always got some kind of solution. Again, I'm excited to be able to talk with you today, and we're both on the East Coast, kind of. So, do you hear me well now?
Sorry, I didn't hear that last. Right.
He was just wondering, could you hear him at all there, Jennifer?
A little bit. It's just some trying to put all the words together.
Putting all the words together. Okay.
Don, why don't you go ahead and sort of lead from the question side, and then I'll
Okay.
still.
I will do so. Well, Jennifer, again, welcome, and we appreciate you being with us today. Sorry for these little technical glitches, but over time we'll get them hammered out, and hopefully everything will run smooth in the future. So, but again, we apologize, and but let's get started.
Okay.
Jennifer, I guess it says read a little bit of your bio, and then perhaps you can tell us a little bit about yourself. But you were born in New York, born and raised in Central New York. Received your doctorate in, and this is a new word for me, so hopefully I pronounce it right, naturopathic medicine from Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine in Tempe, Arizona. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All righty, I did okay. Recently received your Certified Nutrition Specialist Certificate, your CNS, in June of 2013, and currently hold a naturopathic medicine license in the state of Vermont. And as New York is yet to pass this type of license. And so you're also a professor at SUNY, Empire State College, where she teaches nutrition and other health-based classes, positions you have held for the last 3 years. Congratulations. Sounds like you're having a lot of fun with exactly what you enjoy doing. Perhaps maybe tell us a little bit about yourself before we get into some of the direct questions.
Okay, well, right now I have an 8-year-old, and we homeschool him. So I'm home, actually, part of the time I'm home with him half the week, and then I'm actually doing naturopathic medicine the other half. And then out here, we are out in the country, which is why I was wondering what some of the technical difficulties might be. It's our internet. I don't know. But we live out here, we have our chickens, and I do my gardening as much as I can in terms of as much food as I can grow. Sometimes it works out well, sometimes not. And then, I'm not sure. I think I'm never very good at talking about myself, so I'm not sure what else you would like to know in that regard.
Perhaps, Leigh-Ann, do we have graphics that we're going to put up?
Yeah, John, Leigh-Ann will be putting graphics up, and you won't necessarily know what's up, so
okay.
It'll be great being great. So I know she's not hearing me, but why don't you just ask her to talk a little bit about her practice, her naturopathic medicine, and how that's going for her and what kinds of things she does.
So Jennifer, perhaps just give us a little insight into your practice and what you do in your practice, and perhaps what led you to go into this this career path.
Yeah. So what led me into it, which I didn't realize at the time, was when I was 21, much younger than I am now. I ended up having a back surgery. This was a really long, windy road, and this is for most naturopaths. It's usually some health crisis actually ends up leading them down the path of becoming a naturopathic doctor. And that surgery didn't work out well, and I ended up working with a massage therapist who really, at that point, really opened up my eyes to the whole idea of personal responsibility and how our choices, in particular food choices or exercise or how we treat our bodies, really impact whether it's our healing in my case, because the surgery, other than the physical therapy that they offered, there was very little discussion about anything else and how to deal with it. But with the massage therapist, he really helped me in terms of knowing how to stretch, and what really was the problem wasn't the actual surgery, it was the way the muscles tried to compensate from the surgery. So we had to do a lot of work with the muscles. And through that path, that actually led me into this whole concept of naturopathic medicine and what it is, and wanting to go and do more and learn more about it, and leading them down to school. So I went to school, which is 4 years of undergrad and then 4 years of postgrad, which is basically the naturopathic medicine. There's a lot of, which we can get into later, but there's a lot of misunderstanding about naturopaths and who we are and what we do. A lot of people think we're witch doctors, which I get regularly called here in Syracuse. Not so much in other surrounding areas, but in New York, Syracuse is probably one of the more conservative cities, as it's like Albany, or not Albany, but Albany, New York City, Buffalo, Rochester. They're much more open to what we have to offer. And it mostly comes from, my opinion, lack of education in what we do and how we're trained. And in my practice, we'll start from especially in New York, because where training allows us to do primary care work in states that license us. That's what holding my license in Vermont means. Those of us who are in unlicensed states tend to hold our license in a state that licenses us, which allows us basically what our training does, which is primary care. And the licensure laws are different with different states, but in Vermont we're covered by Medicaid. We can do primary care work. We can order labs and interpret them, and we're basically part of the medical system, just more what most people would term an integrative MD. But our work is far more fine than that. We use a concept called functional medicine, So if someone comes in to see me, let's say for thyroid, for example, and they have a thyroid issue that they would like to treat naturally. As a naturopath, we are not unopposed to using medications if it's indicated for the person. But thyroid, this happens a lot. Someone will get on thyroid medication, but they don't feel better. Their symptoms are not better. So our job is to really look at the intricacies of the biochemistry and physiology of how this affects somebody or their thyroid. So, for example, if you're under a lot of stress, that can affect how your body utilizes the thyroid hormone. Or if your digestion is weak, which for many of us this is true, and you're not absorbing your minerals as well, you have some mineral deficiencies, that can affect the conversion in the tissues of how your thyroid works. So while your brain, in terms of the blood work that they do, shows that your levels are normal, it's not showing how your body is utilizing it in terms of it. Being able to use it and create the function or the aspect of that particular, for example, thyroid hormone. So our job is to unravel all of this and figure out for that person what is causing their symptoms and how is the best way through working with their physiology to help bring them back to balance. And this really ties in for us. I do a lot of my work through food. And I know you guys you do a lot of like sustainable farming and things like that, right? That's what you promote?
Yes.
Yeah, this is so important because people have no idea, or they're very uneducated about how much their food impacts their health. So, for example, you know, for us, like for me, I'm going to look at their food, what they're in, how is it balanced, what types of, for meat in particular, what type of meats are they taking in versus organic versus conventional meat. And a lot of people, you know, they get upset over organic and they think it's a farce, which is unfortunate, and it's mostly due to lack of knowledge because it's not just organic, and it's really about what they're fed, the same way as our food is about what the nutrients of the soil look like and the microflora. But for an easy example is cows, and when cows are fed corn, which is not their natural diet, they can raise something, there's a lot of omega-6s, and it raises something called arachidonic acid, which is very inflammatory. And when they eat all that corn, so when you eat that cow that has all this high level of arachidonic acid, it can then increase your inflammatory markers. And this is unfortunately where I feel red meat and some saturated fats, because I am not on the bandwagon that saturated fats are bad, but saturated fats have gotten a bad name. Because they are, when you eat that animal that's been fed wrong, not according to its natural diet, it has great impact on its health, and then has impact on the person who eats that animal. Where a free-range cow who's eating mostly grasses and able to go out and eat what its natural diet, its fatty acid profile is completely different and does not have the health effects that a conventional raised cow might have. And all of this, so looking at their food and their food intake and if it's processed and how much, and then the balance of it, all starts to play into their health. And a lot of times when I start, I usually work with GI or digestion, and then just changing their diet, doing small changes, will bring dramatic changes in how their symptoms. A lot of symptom resolution can happen, and then that slowly starts to help me weed out what's going on that causes these symptoms for them. And in New York, it's a little bit more challenging in working here as opposed to if I was in a licensed state where I had free reign of both my language, because I can't say things that are considered medical or diagnosing, and also my tools, which is looking at different labs and looking at them functionally. Looking at somebody in a range, where are they in this range of what's for diabetes, for example, until you surpass a certain blood sugar range, which keeps changing, but we'll say 110 at this point, you're not considered diabetic, and there's no intervention being talked to, usually for the people, or maybe there's a little bit, depends on where the person is and their doctor. For us, we're going to start looking at the whole cascade. That, when someone's blood pressure starts rising, or with their cholesterol starts to rise, before all those rise before the glucose tends to rise, we're going to start implementing some changes in their diet long before, hopefully, they become diabetic. And that will hopefully help to shift their physiology depending on them, because everybody is very up to the individual. It's very interesting.
could you tell us a little bit about perhaps what type of courses and the training that you receive to get your degree in naturopathic medicine?
For our coursework, it's 4 years. Well, it's 4 years full time. So basically, it amounts to 6 years. We do 4,500 hours of clinical training or classroom training, excuse me, and then 1,500 hours of supervised clinical training, which is under. We have clinics that we go to, and we train under both MDs and MDs. And some people will do chiropractors and acupuncturists. And then the basic sciences, the first 2 years of our education is basic sciences, which is going to be anatomy. We do anatomy lab, physiology, histology, microbiology, biochemistry, and we get actually quite a substantially more, usually about 100 hours more in physiology. And then pharmacology, because we do, in some states we are able to order scripts, so and plus we need to know that for drug herb or drug supplement interactions, and then pathology. Usually, because we have to take board exams, just like medical doctors, so there's 2 board exams. There's a basic science, so we take that board exam 2 years into our education, and then the clinical board exam is at the end. And then the next 2 years, generally speaking, are depending on our clinical disciplines. So we're going to get into diagnostic medicine, imaging, laboratory classes, clinical diagnosis, differential diagnosis, functional medicine assessment, and then we get into our modalities. So as naturopaths, we are trained in nutrition, botanical medicine. In Arizona, where I went to school, we're also trained in acupuncture. That isn't all of the naturopathic medical colleges don't do that because the licensure is different. But we get physical medicine, which is basically chiropractic. It's a little bit different. It's called naturopathic physical medicine, I believe. Hydrotherapy, homeopathy, and mind-body medicine. These are all the modalities that we're then trained in. And our job is to then, and then on top of that, we do our 1,500 hours in the clinic. And in the clinic is where we bring all of this information together, where we have to learn how to assess somebody, not just on, you have X, Y, Z symptoms, your lab work says this, so now you have this disease, but we want to know why you have that disease, what's happening in your physiology. And then we take the modalities and apply it to that person. Each person is different. And we then want to start to say, okay, we're going to do this. Let's say we'll make a dietary change. And we're going to start to work on and start to give you, let's say I'll give you some supplements to try to shift your own physiology back to its balance. And we may also start to recommend, for us, we want to look at the whole picture. And so there's some of us who will specialize, which isn't me, more in like the mind-body connection. I'll refer out, but looking at like the mind and how the emotions and the mental state is contributing to their illness. So, for example, I have a client right now who's having trouble getting pregnant. She has tremendous stress. So we need to work with her stress level to help her reduce some of the endocrine effects of that stress that it's pushing, because otherwise she's completely normal, so she's frustrated as to why she's not getting pregnant, as far as the medical community is concerned. So then this is where all of our training is, and I think a lot where the misconception comes in, both with medical community and the public, is there's I think actually they may both be shut down now, but I'm not 100% sure. But there's these online programs that people can go and take, and it's not nearly the expensive training that we go through, where they can, I don't even know, maybe it's a year or 2 years, I'm not even sure, where they can take these online classes, and at the end of it, they can then call themselves a doctor of naturopathic medicine. And I think that's where a lot of confusion comes in, is a lot of doctors presume that is our training, and that is, and of course, I myself would agree with them. I feel frustrated at times when people are making medical assessments or things that they really shouldn't do, because people are, with their health, they're very nervous. It's really easy to take advantage of somebody or make them really nervous unnecessarily or things like that. But that is not our training. There's 5. Now, when I went to school, there was only 3 schools in the U.S., but now there's 5. One is still in accreditation, so meaning it's not fully accredited yet. And then there's 2, I think it's 2 or 3 in Canada, and that's it for the whole Northeast, or the North America. So it's growing. Naturopathic medicine is starting to get more. There's a lot more people who want to be naturopaths, and then there's obviously the growth of the schools. it shows that. Does that help explain what our education?
Tremendously. And give folks an example. Just how many graduates are there a year between the 3 schools or the 5 schools?
I don't know. But when I which is 10 years, it's got to be quite a few now. It's got to be several hundred.
Several hundred?
Graduating every year.
Uh-huh.
It's not like medical school. That's part of the reason we don't have the numbers yet to compete medically with the medical doctors in terms of how many of us. But it's just every year there's more and more graduates. I mean, when I first went, the classes were maybe 40, 50 people. By the time I was graduated, the classes had doubled in size already. In terms of there's probably 100 in the classes. And I don't know about the schools up north. That was our school. Our school was newer than the 2 out west. They're much older. Been around for a long time. For a while, even in New York, we had naturopathic colleges and we had naturopathic homeopathic hospitals, but they shut all those down. Probably somewhere between 150, 100 or so years ago. Unfortunately, it was more of a political issue back then that caused that. Same as chiropractors.
So let's do this now. Let's take you back a little bit. Before you got into this and before you received all of this education and found a career path that you obviously enjoy very much. So let me ask you, when you were 15 years old, on a beautiful Saturday afternoon, what would you have found yourself doing?
Oh, I'd be outside. That's always what I'm doing. Outside, I'm swimming, I'm doing something, hiking at the beach. That's usually what I'm doing. And usually with a book. Back then, I did a lot of reading. I still do, actually. Quite a bit of reading.
John, do you hear me?
Yes.
Ask Jennifer. Yes. Ask Jennifer at what point in her life did she think at all about medicine before she had some of the physical issues she described? Did she even think that this would be a career path at all?
Did you hear that, Jennifer?
No.
Okay.
Certainly.
Wayne was asking a very good question. That is, had you given any thought before you had your own medical issues of going into the medical field in any way, shape, or form?
No, in fact, prior to that, I was doing marine biology.
You were into marine biology, okay?
Yeah. Prior to that, and then this bad thing happened. It really shifted and altered my path. Made it difficult to do some of the marine biology type work, which was more field work, is where I was after. That's how that happened. But no, not prior to that. No, that was not where I was heading.
Well, Wayne, I saw Wayne smile as soon as you said marine biology. The two of you could have a marine biology discussion forever as Wayne was trained and went to Scripps. So I think that's another a webinar that we could have for another day. So where did you train in marine biology?
I was University of Florida in Gainesville. I was working for the USGS for a little while there, and they started paying for my graduate work in it. And it was shortly into it I had to stop, so I didn't get very far in terms of the actual work. But that's really where my heart is in the ocean.
John, would you ask Jennifer how much nutrition study in her naturopathic degree program that she had a normal physician in a typical MD program would have today? I know in the past, MDs didn't even have nutrition. But what is that?
Okay. Jennifer, I don't know if you could hear Wayne, and he was asking how much nutritional education and courses and training did you receive versus the typical medical doctor in today's education?
We have over 200 hours, plus everything we do in terms of the clinical training is always nutrition, because we're always talking about diet. Without changing someone's diet, it's impossible to help balance their physiology, because it is our food that is causing a lot of the chronic illnesses that people suffer with today. So, you know, while we have 200 plus hours in classroom, that's just constant in our training. That's all we ever talk about is nutrition. Now in MD, I hear it's anywhere from 0 hours. I'm not in their program, I haven't looked them up specifically, but they get 0 hours to maybe 10 or a class here or there. I think it varies, and I do think there's some change in there, but unfortunately they're so inadequately prepared, which is where a lot of the difficulty comes in communicating, because a lot of, like, I'll have GI docs say food has nothing to do with people's GI symptoms, which to me, if you just think of it logically, that doesn't even make sense. If you're having a lot of GI symptoms, what's the main thing always interacting with your GI system? Food. So, or I'll have doctors say, let's say, for example, gluten is a big one that causes a lot of trouble for people. If I have someone remove gluten, they'll tell them that I'm going to create a nutritional deficiency. Well, that's not true, because if someone eats a whole food diet, they're getting plenty of nutrients. That might be true for a standard American who's eating processed foods and things like that, but that's not true from somebody who's eating a healthy whole food diet.
So just from a nutrition standpoint, for the normal human being, what kind of a diet would you suggest as far as intake, types of foods, things that you would recommend with your training that people stay away from, and what people should consume?
Question. That is a loaded question. That is, wow. Well, so from my perspective, like, I always start with a base, and it's going to be a low glycemic, making sure you get anywhere 6 to 12, ideally, servings of vegetables, 2 more fruit, making sure everyone gets at least 2 servings of beans. I think we should be eating saturated fats. That's something that I think will start to change. There is some new research coming out that they're not as bad as they thought they were, but saturated fats are what primarily make up our brain and nerves. So making sure they have good, healthy fats, because we're eating a lot of polyunsaturated, and that's creating a lot of trouble. And then really looking at, for each person, you got to look at their individual food sensitivities. And this is really due to our environment and the amount of drugs people take or antibiotics that they're consuming, whether it's through the doctor or whether it's through their food. Really disrupting our GI physiology. So it's creating a lot of food sensitivities, except for gluten, actually. I think gluten, the discussion all into its own, it really creates problems. I know there's a lot of resistance, and now lately they're coming out saying gluten-free is not what they're saying it is, but they're taking it out of context. There's definitely some downsides to gluten-free, but if you eat a healthy diet, those downsides are not really, that's just a moot point. It's not really an issue anymore. So it's looking at that, and I actually think people should be on a much lower carb diet. I often get my clients down to 1 to 3 servings of grains, not just 6 to 11 or wherever they're at now. It's way too high. We do not have the exercise and the energy expenditure as an average person. Some people do and do higher carb amounts, but most of us do not. And so that, having that much glucose in our blood is obviously creating a lot of problems, as our diabetic and obesity epidemic is just getting worse, because we have way too much sugar and carbohydrates in our diet.
John, would you ask Jennifer if she's getting any kind of cooperation from the standard medical community in terms of what she's doing, or is it still a pretty much resistant circumstance?
Wayne had an excellent question. What type of cooperation are you getting from the regular quote unquote medical community as far as your practice and what you're doing?
Well, not much, unfortunately, and I think is really a reflection of demographics. I think it's the area. Syracuse is an extremely difficult area. I'm also in New York. If I was in a licensed state, I think while it would still be kind of like chiropractors, where there's some of the doctors accept them, but nowadays most of them do. Some don't, and most of them do. That's more like in a licensed state how we would be received, but especially unlicensed states, and especially Syracuse, because it's very conservative. Although there is some shifting going on. some people are really, do not like me like that. There's a couple MDs that are really supportive of me and will help me out because I have to work with the medical community, because if I need labs, I need to work with them. Some of them are fairly neutral, and, you know, from when I first, because I've been here almost 10 years now, well, maybe not 9, actually, 9 years. Right, from when I first got here, it's definitely improving. So there is a shift, there is a paradigm shift going on. Unfortunately, like, there's a lot of medical doctors who want to do integrative medicine, and while it's great, unfortunately it's not the same as functional medicine. Unless they actually are trained in functional medicine, integrative, they tend to overshoot, and they're not looking for physiologic balance, which is very different. That's the key. It's physiologic balance, which means you don't give high doses of lots of hormones, or like we do. We just tweak it a little bit to try to see what the body can do itself, because our bodies are amazing. They are not as frail as I think a lot of people think they are. They have incredible ability given the right tools and the right nutrients, just like gardening or animals or anything out in nature. If they have the right tools, the right nutrients, they flourish. And the same is true for us humans. We have to feed ourselves the right food, and we will flourish. And our bodies can self-correct. Just like I'm sure, although I don't have any training in this, but I'm sure ecosystems will self-correct given the right ingredients, if you will. Did you hear that?
Yes, that was great.
Okay.
Maybe give our listeners a little bit of some insight into someone who might have influenced you into your career path now, or when you were younger, someone who had a major impact on what led you perhaps into this field of study and practice.
My massage therapist, the one that helps me with my back, he was the one that really impressed upon me personal responsibility, and that's something that I work a lot with my own clients. And it took a while for me to get it back then, certainly at that age. And personal responsibility is something that I think we need to talk about more in our society, and meaning that we have to stop blaming on everybody else. But if I choose this food, I'm going to have this success. And that's something that's been so empowering in my practice, is when people, let's say, they remove gluten, and they feel so much better. Now when they eat gluten, they realize, oh, my headache is from the gluten. So when they eat gluten again, they get a headache, and so their health symptoms are less scary, because now they can figure out why they're getting them. And he was just really prominent in that. And now looking back, hindsight 2020, but he just in general really helped me understand how important it is for us to take responsibility for our own health and look at our choices. And for me, it was really, he also talked to me a lot about food. I don't know if he realized how much he influenced me, but he had a huge influence on me. And then nowadays, I really like, what I look at a lot is Weston Price. Are you familiar with Dr. Price?
I am personally not.
I am.
And Jennifer, could you speak up just a touch, please?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, that's fine. Just a little bit louder. Thank you.
Yep. And so what I was saying is Dr. Weston Price also has a huge influence on me, especially more recently. He's not alive anymore, but his work more recently and really looking at food. He was a dentist. I can't remember exactly when he was alive, but I want to say maybe in the 1920s. I don't know. I'm not sure on that. But he really has some powerful information. I mean, he noticed how certain people about our jaw structure and ended up realizing that it was related to our food. And he went and studied traditional cultures and what they were eating, and basically came down to the idea that we need nutrient-dense foods. And what does that mean? And there's this whole organization now that's really promoting his work. And that's truly the key to health, is having good quality food. That's where it starts. That's the building blocks.
from a quality of food standpoint, would you say what is sold in the everyday grocery store across the United States is okay?
No,
No.
would not. I would say what's sold in the farmers markets, what's sold at your local farmers. It's like I live in the country. There's tons of farmers around here who have little farm stands. What's grown in my garden, even the big. I personally don't believe in the big organic. If you grow your own garden, you can clearly see the color difference in the food. Just even your own garden. My son doesn't really dislikes it when we don't have broccoli anymore because it's just not the same coming from the store. So while, for a lot of people, this upsets people because a lot of people are like, well, I don't have the time or the money or this. And so I am a firm believer in do the best you can. Bless your food and do the best you can, but really start paying attention to the quality of the food you get. I have a local farmer up the road that we get our milk from. He's able to do raw milk, and whenever like my friends who are now also drinking it, you can taste the difference in the quality of his milk versus what you get in the store. So I think the stores, they do the best that they can. I think it's complicated. It's easy for me to say, no, it's not. It's definitely not the best quality, but I think it's complicated. They're trying to feed a lot of people. But again, this comes back to personal responsibility. I want better quality food, so I'm going to put that time and effort into going to my farmer's market, finding my local farmers, or growing my own food. Right up the road, we have a guy who's making meat. There's Black Angus cows, and those cows are outside every day of the year. I get to watch how they're raised and they have a very happy, healthy life. So that's, I think, key, and I think a lot of us need to start. I think there is a movement towards that, but I think a lot of us need to start thinking about that.
So moving forward, then, as you look at your practice and where you're headed, perhaps give our listeners a key skill that you have learned that you are using and from the past, and it's influencing you now in the way you run your business and you run your practice.
Balance and personal responsibility. Those are key skills in learning how to have balance, and that means with our food and our food intake. And a lot of people, because of what I do, I really have to help. People are changing their whole lifestyle, and it's not easy, and it's not going to be fast. And sometimes they're going to have gluten or a food they know bothers them, and it's not about good or bad. It's about we have to eat healthy as the primary base of our diets, but we also have to have balance because the stress of sometimes eating healthy is just as detrimental as eating bad food. So balance is huge, and that's true for me in my practice, my work life, my home life, is really focusing on balance to keep us healthy. And then personal responsibility comes down to choice. That, both in my business and working with clients and on both sides of the fence, me as the doctor and am I helping them in the way that they need? I have to always look at that. I can't feel frustrated if somebody quits. I have to look at, too. Sometimes it's them and sometimes it's me. It's really looking at, really taking that to heart. Not in a self-defeating way, but really looking at that so you can do better for the next person who might come down your path.
So let me throw another question at you and tell our listeners what does the term sustainability mean to you?
Well, sustainability, I think it just means, I don't know how to best describe this. I struggled with that question, actually. Just in ecology, it means, diversity and having to flourish, the ecosystem to be able to give the biodiversity and the diversity of animals, in that particular case, or species, and the whole system will thrive. And I think that is really what sustainability is about, is for all of us, whether it's in our food, really looking at the impact that we might have if we're going to take something out of balance in our life where we like too much sugar or too much carbs. It really just comes back to balance in the end. And really looking at, do we have a balanced diet or balanced nutrients? And whether that's in our health or in our environment or in our world, I think sustainability is really all about looking at balance, looking at how we're impacting, whether it's us or our environment, through our choices. And educating ourselves. I really feel today, if someone gives you information with the internet and what its power of information and knowledge that the internet allows us, we can do a whole lot more than some of us like to think we can. And through research, it's so easy to get information today on how to make changes, again, both for our environment and for our health. Because without our environment, sustainability, and looking at that as well, and this comes down to food choice. If you don't have healthy raised cows, for example, don't have as great of an impact on the environment as the factory farm cows.
So related to that, has there been one person who's been, very influential on you in the sustainability or environmental area, as far as an example of nutrition or helping you farm or helping you, grow your garden? Has there been one person who, you learned from, or you said, boy, they're really good at that, or I want to pattern myself after them? I know you mentioned Dr. Price.
My dad has helped me a lot with gardening and my chickens and stuff, and I know he's not in the movement per se, but he's had a huge impact on me and helping me and my local farmers and talking to people locally. That really for me has probably had the most impact, is getting that local knowledge through community. And then in my practice movement, it really is Weston Price. I don't know if that would be part of what you're looking for in that answer, but he really I think would be right, and that he is alive today, would be right in that movement. His whole philosophy is about nutrient-dense food.
I know when we started off our conversation today, you mentioned that you enjoyed reading, and you do a lot of reading. So maybe give our listeners what's a book you've read recently or you're reading today that people might be interested in?
Right now I'm reading The Low Carb Diet, Low Carb, I believe, and Know Your Fat, which are great books. Know Your Fat, especially because it's written by a biochemist, Mary Ng. And so it gives them the real information on fat and what happens with the demonization of fat, because I feel that really is contributing to our health effects, our health issues today as a society, is the low-fat craze. But everyone needs to do their own research, so that's a great book to start with. And then The Low Carb, Art of Low Carb, the art and science of low carb, which is great, and understanding why low carb is important. And low carb doesn't mean like some of the ketogenic or paleo. I don't really like to get into that. I just realizing that we need to match carb consumption with output. Otherwise, it turns into insulin issues and fat and obesity and diabetes. So really understanding the science of that. And then from a more, I also like, and what really has, well, there's a lot of books that have come since this, but is really The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle and The New Earth, which was really my first introduction into the concept of the ego. And I think that's the more that people understand about ego, the less threatening and intimidating and the less negative human interactions will be had. So I think those are really important books in just growth as a whole.
So that, leading from that, is there a particular phrase or a quote, perhaps from one of those books or from someone that you remember that means a lot to you and you kind of use in your life?
Yeah, it's not from one of those books, but it's actually a phrase that I use a lot with my business, and it's by Thomas Edison. And he said, his quote is, "The doctor of the future will give no medicine, but will interest his patients in the care of the human frame, in diet, and in the cause and prevention of disease." And that, I think, is so important for all of us. Instead of jumping, not that we may not need medicine, medication, drugs, but if we take care of ourselves and we learn how to take care of ourselves, it's really not taught at all, ever. It just has tremendous benefits. It spiders out, not just in our health, but we feel better and we can give back to our community, and we're happier, healthier people. I like Thomas Edison. He said that.
Yeah, I think he had a little impact on our society.
Yep, he did.
One other question we always we like to ask our folks who come on the huddles, and it's a question that Wayne has stolen from a gentleman by the name of John Lee Dumas, and he hosts a popular webcast daily. It's called Entrepreneur on Fire, and he asks every guest, and it's a good one. And here it is: if you woke up tomorrow and you found you were on another planet just like Earth, and all of your daily needs were cared for, but all you have is your laptop and $500, what would you decide to do for the next 7 days?
Well, that would be easy. I'd put the laptop away because I don't think I'd want to use that. And I would be outside exploring, looking wherever I landed, going exploring the ecosystem and the nature and the life out there. I'm not even sure I'd need the money, maybe to buy some food or something, but...
You mean you'd go shopping at the farmer's market?
Yeah, if they had one, yep. I could buy food. Oh, I am an outdoors girl. I like to be outside. Doesn't matter where I am as long as it's outside.
And so, if you're outside that much, what are your winters like?
They're cold.
Yeah?
They are cold. They weren't so cold up until this year, though. They weren't so bad. You can still get outside. I live at the base of a forest. It's actually a park, too, so we can do cross-country skiing and snowshoeing, which is what we do a lot, or go sledding. So it's nice. I don't have to drive very far. But they're cold up here.
Well, Jennifer, you certainly have an interesting story, and what you're doing it's very, very cool, and I'm sure you're helping a lot of people. Let me ask Wayne, do you have any other questions for Jennifer, Wayne?
Oh, I have lots of them that I'll reserve to do maybe at another time. I'm very intrigued, and I just wish her the best. And you know, it's sad for me to hear that the traditional medical community is not embracing what she and all the others like her are doing. Yet I understand it totally, and I think she's right when she said that the typical MD who comes out of 4 years of college and 4 more years of medical school and a residency and whatever other training they have in their particular disciplines has had no nutrition training. And yet, what is our body? We are what we eat, as they say. And anyway, I so much appreciate what she's doing. I thank her so much for coming on today, and then primarily even being great with our little technical difficulties. Leigh-Ann was able to show some nice clips of her and of her website and other things. Does she have anything else that she'd like to tell us about her practice or just anything to end the conversation here? Otherwise, see if anyone else either online or there live has got any other questions that they might have for her.
Jennifer, were you able to get most of what Wayne said there?
I heard some of it, but I don't have anything else to add.
Okay.
At this point.
Well, you've been a tremendous guest, and I'm sure I know that Wayne is going to want to talk with you further about your history, your studies in marine biology, because I know that's a passion of his, and hopefully we can get together, and hopefully we can have you back another time to join us on a huddle. And we really appreciate it, and I think I personally found it very interesting, and I know that as we all get older, no matter how old you are, nutrition and diet seem to be a topic, and I think the more people like yourself are out there promoting it, better off people are going to be and a lot healthier. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And we are looking for any other questions that may come up on our chat box here, and I actually don't see anything at the moment. So maybe we'll sign off for today. Wayne, any closing words, please? And oh, by the way, I think we do have Jeff Finkel, the head of the IEDC, which is the International Economic Development Council, and he is located in Washington, D.C., and he will be our next guest on the Huddle in 2 weeks.
Yeah, and that's exciting. He hopefully he'll even tell us a little bit about his jury duty. John, remember he told us the story. He was supposed to have spoken several weeks ago, and he had jury duty. But Jeff's a longtime friend of both John and I's, and we look forward to him. And again, thank you everyone for participating. Again, we know that a lot of you are going to watch this on a replay. Go back and look at some of the other webinars that we've done. There's been a lot of really great guests, and Jennifer, we just really appreciate you taking the time today. I hope Teresa got to catch a little bit of this. She's your friend who introduced us to you, and she's actually traveling today, moving to Ireland, and hopefully she's able to catch a little bit of this, and if not, she'll catch it as a replay. And thanks everybody, and goodbye from Delaware. I almost said from Loveland. And John, take it over and
we'll sign off here from beautiful Loveland, Colorado. Again, Jennifer, thank you again for being our guest.
All right, thank you.
Bye now.